This level, we're taking this thing across the entire continent, and that's quite a feat in itself.
Van Halen put this monster bill together, and on Tuesday they pulled up to the King Kong house at Universal Studios in LA to tell the world press why they're not hitting the road alone this time out.
It's kind of more fun this way, and then we don't have to play for 5 hours.
The Monsters of Rock show will feature full-length concert sets by each of the 5 bands, 9 full hours of head-banging heaven. The tour will kick off on May 27th in Alpine Valley, Wisconsin, and will hit between 25 and 30 other cities across the country before the summer's over. These are some of the cities announced so far, and if you wish your hometown were one of them, well, don't give up hope. Spokane, Washington got together a list of 41,000 signatures begging the Monsters to play there, and now they will.
Trying to play every stadium that have, that allow rock and roll, or that there's not someone there when we can be there.
More than 50 tractor trailers will be required to carry the tour's 75 tons of sound equipment, and more than 2 million fans are expected to take it all in. Will the American Monsters of Rock tour turn out to be even bigger than the annual European version?
It's a little bit bigger, right? Because in America everything is bigger.
Even the Monsters. The press lapped this all up, the fans are going to love it, and Van Halen, for one, can't wait to get out there and bring it to them.
The idea of this is to really make all the people that come to the shows walk away just going, man, it was the greatest show I've ever been to. Hopefully it'll be that great.
And you know it there, Sammy. Well, of course, one of the biggest tour stories this spring belongs to Michael Jackson. But while he's out on the road back in Los Angeles, his lawyers are finalizing a deal to buy him a spacious new home. It's Sycamore Valley Ranch, a $28 million spread near Santa Barbara, California, not far from President Reagan's home. And for more than 15 years, Michael's lived at the Jackson family compound in Encino, but reportedly he wanted to move to a rural setting with more room for his menagerie of animals. Here he'll have 2,700 acres of land, plus a mansion, clubhouse, tennis court, and lakes. Now, Michael won't be spending much time at the ranch anytime soon, though, as his European tour, which kicks off in May, has just been extended through the summer, and he'll return for his second U.S. leg in September. And in just a matter of weeks, on April 20th, Doubleday Books will release Michael's long-awaited autobiography titled Moonwalk.
With the Rolling Stones on indefinite hold, Mick Jagger has been tearing up Japan with his first solo tour. He's the only Stone ever to set foot on a stage there, and his reception has been uproarious. On his second night in Tokyo, Jagger was joined on stage by Tina Turner for roof-raising renditions of Brown Sugar and It's Only Rock and Roll. Jagger brought along filmmaker Michael Lindsay Hogg to document this tour because he won't be bringing it back to the States. He's had a ton of offers, of course, but it seems he also has other plans. As tour producer Bill Graham put it, only half mysteriously, the Rolling Stones are one of the truly great rock and roll bands, and I'd like to go to that party one more time, wouldn't you? We haven't heard a lot from Rod Stewart for the past couple of years, but in between tending his 9-month-old baby girl and playing soccer 3 times a week, he's managed to put together a new album. We caught up with Rod during his latest video shoot.
No, I've been away. It's nice. It was a purposeful layoff for a couple of years. You know, I used to tour every 2 or 3 years, so I thought I'd leave it 4 years this time. Go out there and no one will know who I am. Blown it, Stewart.
Well, if the past 20 years are any indication, Rod Stewart doesn't have to worry about people forgetting who he is. From his early days with the Jeff Beck Group through his stint with the Phases and then superstardom in the 70s as a solo artist, Stewart has been one of the more durable rock stars around.
Baby, I know first cut is the deepest. Tonight's the night. In my heart, you're in my soul. You'll be my breath should I grow old. I beg in your satin shoes. I wish I never seen your
Stewart hopes to put another notch on his long list of hits with a new song called Lost in You. The tune was inspired by his girlfriend, Kelly Emberg, and co-written with ex-Duran Duran guitarist Andy Taylor. Rod shot a video for the song this past week in L.A.
I'm much more aware of the camera now than I was, say, 10 years ago when there's awful video of Tonight's the Night, you know, with Brett Eklund in it and made me hair down there, and I was terribly embarrassed to make videos in those days, you know. It's much more natural for me now. It feels more natural.
With a new album called Out of Order due in May, Stewart is planning to tour all summer long, leading a band that features drummer Tony Thompson and bassist Bernard Edwards. But hitting the road is bound to be a little different this time for a father of three.
You can't have kids in your life and get married and do grown-up things like that without affecting you somehow. I think I'm very responsible, more responsible now than I've ever been in my life. But there's really still a kid in here always wanting to get out and do ridiculous things.
After 2 decades at or near the top, Rod Stewart has joined the ranks of rock and roll's senior citizens. And what might the future hold in store for that group?
These are going to be very interesting years, I think, for the likes of, you know, like of Bowie and me and Elton and Jagger and everybody else that's over 40, to see what the next 10 years is going to hold for us.
Nice jacket there, Rod. Prince in the nude. That's the picture you'll be getting on the cover of Prince's upcoming LP, Love Sexy. Now, Prince posed in the All Together for video director Jean-Baptiste Mondino, and the result will be tastefully hand-tinted and airbrushed before it pops up in stores. Now, Prince will be fully clothed, however, in Mondino's video for his next single, which is Alphabet Street, which is due out imminently. As for the Love Sexy album itself, it's set for a May 3rd release, but Prince is still fiddling around with it in the studio, so don't hold your breath. And we'll be back with Dweezil's dad and a profile of Michael J. Fox when the Week in Rock continues.
It was like a big line around my house. What is Michael going to do? You know, what is he going to do? And my grandmother, who's now gone, but she's an Irish woman from Belfast. Great. My mother's like a little bit bigger version of her. And she's like, oh, don't you worry about Michael. You know, he'll be fine.
The Week in Rock is sponsored by the Depp Corporation, makers of styling and hair care products, and by Kawasaki.
Look at me, I'm a debutante with an attitude you gotta see. 'Cause sometimes I act debonair, a sophisticated kind of me. At parties, I'm a diplomat who says you can't have them all. I'm anyone I want 'cause I've been deputized. Believe me, it's a ball. Alcohol-free Dep, gel, mousse, and glaze, plus sculpt and hold hairspray to get in style. You gotta get deputized.
Racing on the water, just you and me. Running wild, running free. Run, 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 Kawasaki.
Jet Ski Watercraft by Kawasaki. The ultimate water pistol.
Fly across the water on a jumping jet. Kawasaki gets the good times wet. Fun, 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 Kawasaki.
See your local Kawasaki dealer today.
Kawasaki!
In a battle drill, you need horsepower, firepower, people power, teamwork.
Be all that you can be. Get an edge on life in the Army.
Hey, where did you learn about computers?
In the Army.
You were in the Army too?
Qualify for the GI Bill and the Army College Fund, and you can earn over $25,000 for college.
What you do in the Army?
Airborne.
You used to jump out of airplanes?
Baby, in the heat of the night, you know what to do. Good love, you got to. Baby, in the heat of the night, you know what to do, don't you? Good love, yeah.
Every little funky band thing is kicking.
Good love, my Lord. Oh, my love. My love. Oh, my love.
Hi, welcome back to the Week in Rock. Prince has a new song called Good Love on the soundtrack of Bright Lights Big City, which opens next week. Much of the movie takes place in a club, so it's no surprise that the soundtrack is dominated by dance music. Included are recent hits like Pump Up the Volume by Mars and New Order's True Faith, plus new songs by Brian Ferry and Donald Fagen.
Now, Bright Lights Big City is the 5th feature film for the Prince of TV comedy, Michael J. Fox. And this week's profile, we hear from a guy who's making the move away from Alex P. Keaton.
It was like a big line around my house. What is Michael going to do? You know, what is he going to do? Everyone was so concerned with what I was going to do because I was small and semi-hyper. And when I started to act and found it was something I enjoyed and in fact was making a living at it at a young age, I was 15 or 16. they realized that wherever that took me, it was best for them to support me there, because that was about all I was going to do. You know, it was either that, as I said, it's either that or be a career criminal. You know, so I was meeting with my agent one night. We were having dinner. It was after Light of Day had come out, and he was telling me about the box office, which had been disappointing, and he said, you know, I don't want you to get upset. And I said, I'm not upset. I said, I never did Light of Day for it to be a big box office success. And he said, congratulations. Then Secret of My Success came out and did whatever, you know. Well, I know what it did. It did good. What you want to do ultimately is be able to look the people you expect to come and see your work in the eye and say, listen, I'm doing the best I can do. The perception that a lot of people have that this is, well, they've described it in a lot of ways, the flip side of Less Than Zero, you know, or being about the nightclub scene, or being an ode to kind of yuppiedom and drugs and self-indulgence, and it's really not. We talk about the amount of drug use in the film. One should be very clear to point out that it was, it's not drugs. It was something that one day I was having lunch at the Paramount Commissary and I saw Al Pacino, and I asked him what they used in Scarface, and he said lactose, or lactate maybe, which is milk sugar. So we use that. So the funny part about that is that you do it, and there's no sensation at all, but the next day your nose is a little clogged, and then around noon it breaks and milk starts to run down your face. Money changes your life, and it makes a lot of things possible. It gets down to once you're eating and you can buy presents for your family at Christmas, and you get a roof over your head, it's just a way of keeping points. And the great part, really, if there's any really great part of success, you know, a successful acting career, it's being allowed to act and being given a lot of options, a lot of choices, and being able to read the work of a lot of really good writers and figure out what you want to do. And that's the upside all the way.
Fox will be heading to Thailand next, where he's co-starring with Sean Penn in the Brian De Palma drama Casualty of War.
The forces of cultural repression have been taking it on the chin a lot lately. TV preachers in disgrace, Washington wives in decline. Nobody could be happier about all this than Frank Zappa. For more than 20 years now, Frank Zappa has been battling censorious prudes and pompous hypocrites wherever he finds them. Lately, he's found them among the ranks of sex-crazed evangelists and would-be rock record raiders like Tipper Gore of the PMRC. It's a never-ending fight, but Frank says he's beginning to see light at the end of the tunnel.
And people occasionally ask me, well, who's winning? And I always say, well, we are. You know, look at them. They're pathetic.
Zappa was an early opponent of the PMRC, the self-styled Parents Music Resource Center, which nowadays seems to consist mainly of Tipper Gore. Tipper's record-raiding crusade has fizzled. She's become an embarrassment to her husband Albert's presidential campaign, and now Zappa is having the last laugh.
Now, would I do that? And anybody who goes around wanting to stick a big O on something because it mentions the devil in it, that person's got a mental health problem. And they share that mental health problem with people like Jim and Tammy and Jimmy Swaggart.
Zappa's most ferocious broadsides are reserved for the fallen Bible beaters Jim and Tammy Baker and Jimmy Swaggart.
This is a sick guy. Remember, by his own admission, he's addicted to pornography. And we've been listening to how many years? You know, he's coming in there. Everything the man says or has said, you have to see that you have to subtract that mentality of the pornography addict.
At age 47, Zappa is as irreverent as ever, and his current Broadway the Hard Way tour, which winds up this weekend before shipping off to Europe, has been drawing a whole new generation of fans eager to hear his racy repertoire, his extended guitar solos, and his anti-authoritarian message. These kids don't need to be protected from suggestive lyrics and salacious videos, Frank says, and there's no reason they should be.
I think that it may drive legions of children into dressing in a peculiar way, but I don't think that they're going to be headed for hell.
Is there anything on today's rock scene that offends Frank Zappa? Well, there is this one guy.
The most offensive video, and I watched it all the way through the other night, is that Michael Jackson one where he stands there and goes, and then watch, and does this. Give me a break. Michael, give me a break. And then when the hydrant squirts off at the end of the video, oh yeah, sure, well, fine. And people say, I'm weird.
Frank for president. Zappa will release a live album from his Broadway the Hard Way tour later this year.